This has been going on for a while, and we're not going to put up with it. I love Canada. But they've outsmarted our politicians for many years. Agriculture and rural prosperity in America, that's what we want, right? And we don't want to be taken advantage of by other countries, and that's stopping. And that's stopping fast.
Do you fear a trade war with Canada, sir?
No, not at all.
Why not?
They have a tremendous surplus with the United States. Whenever they have a surplus, I have no fear. By the way, virtually every country has a surplus with the United States. We have massive trade deficits. So when we're the country with the deficits, we have no fear.
President Trump talking Canada and trade. This has to do with softwood lumber, but also dealing with milk and affecting our dairy farmers. Just moments ago, the Canadian Minister of Natural Resources responded.
Our government disagrees strongly with this decision. It is unfounded, and we will vigorously fight for the interests of the Canadian softwood lumber industry, its workers, and their communities. These unfair and punitive duties will negatively affect people's jobs on both sides of the border and will ultimately increase costs for American families who want to build or renovate homes.
So obviously we're dealing with U.S. North Korea, we're dealing with U.S. Iran, but when it comes to trade, now we're dealing with U.S. Canada as well. Let's bring in our panel. Juan Williams, columnist with The Hill and author of We the People, now out in paperback, editor-in-chief of LifeZette, Laura Ingraham, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Laura, I guess he's sending a signal here that they're serious about trade.
Yeah, he's campaigned on this. This was one of his core issues, wildly popular in states like Wisconsin, big dairy farms there, cheese production there, also Pennsylvania, Ohio. And we haven't heard a U.S. president speak about the dumping of cheap products into the United States at obscenely low prices that have devastated American industries, and that's why so many turned out in the old Rust Belt states, and this will be very popular among rural Americans, and I think other Americans. It's not surprising that Canada responds the way it can. Canada should respond that way. They're going to fight for their workers, and we're going to fight for our workers and our industries. That's the way it should be. There should be an efficient marketplace where both sides have a chance to represent their workers and their industries very vigorously. And once they get Bob Lighthizer actually confirmed, which I hope Mitch McConnell gets that done as U.S. Trade Representative, we're going to see a vigorous argument at the World Trade Court and other trade bodies for American workers. That is what President Trump campaigned on.
And Secretary of Commerce Ross was out making that case today, Juan. Democrat Ron Wyden put out a statement about this. Today's announcement sends the message that help is on the way. But the fight to save millions of jobs cannot end here. America needs continued tough trade enforcement and a durable solution to the Canadian policies that distort trade and hold American lumber businesses back from fully realizing their potential. So, I mean, this does cross party lines.
That's really true, and I was going to bring that up because it's striking to me. Usually you see in these fights with President Trump that the Democrats are unified in opposition. Here's Ron Wyden, who's a pretty liberal guy, from the state of Oregon, but now, given the presence of so many who are in the lumber industry in Oregon, standing up and saying, wait a second, this actually is a problem. And I particularly call attention to his language. He said it distorts the trade relationship given the premiums that Canada puts on its products.
So what does this mean for China, for example? Like when they see this, do they say, look out?
Well, so the real question is how it plays out here. Because remember, we haven't talked about U.S. consumers, U.S. home builders, and the like. And there are lots of sort of ancillary industries that would be touched by this. And I think that's what the Canadians are counting on, that there's going to be some squeamish attitudes coming from, let's say, real estate people who are talking about new home construction, Brett. So if they're suddenly saying, hey, we're short, we can't do this, hey, you're hurting the real estate industry, then it has broader impact than just the lumber and dairy businesses.
Charles.
Well, that's the problem with protectionism. For example, if we were to prevail upon the Chinese to stop dumping steel, and we were to raise tariffs on steel. This has happened in the past. That's great for steel workers, but it's not so good if you're making autos or other stuff out of steel. The costs are passed on, and they become less competitive. So Juan is right. If you put a tariff on the lumber, you can get a problem with homes. Are going to be a little more expensive. Look, I think after having insulted Australia, South Korea, Japan, Mexico, and just about every one of our friends, it's about time that we hit Canada. And, you know, I still haven't gotten over the War of 1812, so I have a personal animus here. Look, I think this is Trump proclaiming a principle that we are going to be really tough on trade. We are not, because the tariffs on our dairy products is something like 200 to 300%. It's really outrageous. And what he's doing, he's bargaining. There's a real estate guy saying, here's my opening bid. I threaten you with tariffs on lumber. You show us some give on dairy. I think they will likely get this done. I can't imagine that we're going to start this administration with a trade war with Canada. I can understand China, I can understand other people, but this is our closest ally in the world. And in a way, is gratuitous.
Last word on this.
The word protectionism is always thrown around to anyone who stands up for American workers or American companies.
But you're standing up for some workers, not all workers.
Well, no, I think what Donald Trump campaigned on, which I assume he will do, is on issues like cold-rolled steel. Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, most presidents invoke some type of temporary tariff to make the marketplace efficient. It is wildly distorted now. We had a 20% increase in the dumping of cheap steel in the United States in the first 3 months of this year from the previous year. We had, I think, 18 out of the 20 top steel manufacturers in the world were American. Now I think it's about 3. So there are ancillary effects. We tried globalization and let it all ride on a WTO, and we got Donald Trump as president. So we tried 20 years of this. We tried it.
The ancillary effects are on every industry downstream that uses the product. It's a law of nature. It's a law of economics. If you raise the price, you are going to hurt the people.
We also have American workers who have jobs and families who have a livelihood, and the beauty parlor and the shopping center and all the people who can actually spend money instead of being on government welfare.
And people in construction are going to lose those jobs if the price of lumber rises. That's very simple, not complicated.
Well, obviously, this is going to be battling back and forth between Canada and the U.S. I want to turn to another issue with the administration today, and that is Michael Flynn, the Congress investigating him. Take a listen to Jason Chaffetz and also Sean Spicer.
As a former military officer, you simply cannot take money from Russia, Turkey, or anybody else. And it appears as if he did take that money. It was inappropriate, and there are repercussions for the violation of law.
The White House has refused to provide this committee with a single piece of paper in response to our bipartisan requests, and that's simply unacceptable.
Everything that is being discussed occurred prior to his employment at the White House, occurred as a consultant. And so whatever he did, as long as he did it in compliance with the law, as every one of us as a citizen has the right to do.
That is Michael Flynn, former National Security Advisor, was there less than a month. Juan, your thoughts on this?
Well, so there are two thoughts around town on this one, which is, on the one hand, Michael Flynn's been in the intelligence agency. It's not like, oh, gee, who's Michael Flynn? Everybody knows it. But does Michael Flynn understand that once you leave the intelligence community, you have to be forthcoming, especially, and I think this is in specific, not, you know, he may have thought, oh, I'm just doing my thing, but when it comes to your security clearance, well, if you are not properly disclosing all of your payments, connections, that's illegal. You can't do that. Okay. But is it intentional, and was Flynn trying to cover up a relationship? I think that's still out there.
We're talking now about, Laura, his contract work with Turkey and obviously money he received from Russia Today.
They should have revealed it. I mean, ask the question on a form. This is the government, and we know that they're going to watch them and hold them to high standard, and they should be held to a high standard. He should have revealed it. He didn't reveal it. I'm not sure how this is relevant today. He's no longer working in the administration, but of course the left wants to tie this to the big Russian conspiracy, and it's, you know, it's the fantasy that they're going to stay with as long as possible.
Yeah, in fact, Senator Schumer said today this is the tip of the iceberg. That's what his comment was.
Yeah, but there is no iceberg. Look, this could be the reason why Flynn has been asking for immunity in return for testimony. It has nothing to do with the Trump administration. It's a mistake on his part. It doesn't in any way involve secrets or conspiracy or collusion, so I think it's irrelevant to that. It affects only him, and it really reflects badly on him from what we know today.